Ice wine, baby tree monkeys, and Civil War reenactment. That's right. Season 1, Episode 6, Weekend Warriors on the 6th episode of this podcast.
I've heard it both ways.
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 And welcome back to I've Heard It Both Ways. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. We are the Pineapple Boys, and riding along shotgun with me in the Blueberry is, as always, is my good pal Horatio Hornblower. Horatio, how you doing?
I like the alliteration. It's always a classic.
Yeah, it's Horatio Hornblower. I don't know why it was stuck in my head. It's an old literary character. There's a story about the Napoleonic Wars, and my dad used to always, my dad loves that stuff, so it was stuck in my head for some reason. I thought it'd be very fitting for tonight.
Wow, I'm an English major, and that's over my head. Jesus Christ.
How you been, buddy? Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's great. 1 week break, but we're back at it, and we're talking probably one of the funniest episodes in season 1. I mean, joke for joke, this goes with any of them.
Yeah, this is my notes. My show notes it's mostly one-liners. Mm-hmm. I've got more bolded one-liners in this one than we've had, all season long so far. So while we don't get the Gus nickname and the pineapple, very debatable. I had to look this one up. Very debatable whether there's a pineapple reference in this one. But I believe we did get our first of something else, which we'll touch upon later. But this was a great case. It was a great detective work throughout. As I just said, a ton of one-liners. So one of the better ones for sure for season 1.
Yeah, I loved it. And we can get right into our process, which starts with a holla, ends with the creamsicle, and if there's time in between,
Thundercats ho!
So let's get right into it, Joe.
Yeah, so the cold open for this one is a little long, but I enjoy it because it reminded me of my youth. Henry's got Sean and Gus and what appears to be their local Boy Scout troop, but they're launching model rockets. And I always remember doing this as a kid with my old man. I was in the Boy Scouts myself, so always had a ton of fun with this. So it was very relatable. And while it was kind of long, we do get two bits, from this cold open that play out later in the episode. One is the pocket watch, which plays out in a couple ways, both hilarious. But then we get this idea of shortcuts, and where Henry shoots the rocket, Sean and Gus have to go get the rocket if they want to have their ice cream sundae, and they come back with just the parachute, and Henry's got the rocket. And how the fuck did you get the rocket? And Sean picks up, that he took a shortcut. And this idea of looking for shortcuts, taking shortcuts, is what really pays off at the end. So that was this was a nice cold open.
Yeah, I liked it. It's the good Henry hair. It's the good Sean. It is the shitty Gus, however.
Oh, terrible! The worst Gus. Oh, just the worst Gus. My favorite Gus is the one where he's on the.
He looks more like a young Gus. This does not look like a young Gus. He's got the similar head shape and hair.
Oh, he's got this oddly deep voice too.
Yeah.
It just, but he's like, "What are you doing, Gus?" I'm just playing board grass. The one
yes, yeah.
That's my favorite.
You're permanent keeper in now. You're playing for keeps, man.
Yeah. So that's my Gus. That's my my young.
Oh
Gus.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's Gus. And this and the other Sean are the top Seans.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's one other kind of gangly Sean that comes in later, and my wife's like, no, this is there's one more, but it's another show for another day. But so. I just love this episode because of it's classic Lassie. It's him being doing the Civil War reenactment, and this.
And that's what kicks it off.
It's brilliant because you've got Lassie in all his glory. Is he on a horse?
I don't know if he's on a horse. I forget how it starts. I'll admittedly say I was mostly listening to this probably 10 times over the last 2 weeks, but I do love this episode. As I said before, this is the episode that got me into Psych, and I'm locked in. I love this show now. Just the little things that started. And, I went to school, Brasi was in radio. I went to school to be a reporter at one point. That failed horribly, but I'm in, kind of the media business now, and you're always looking for a different angle into a story. And the way Psych started the first like 4 or 5 episodes, they were always, in the Chief Vic's office or like snooping around trying to get a case. Then on 9 Lives, he's got the police scanner. He gets into there. This one, they're there and the crime happens.
Which is
so
awesome.
It's another way to get it going. And the way that the crime happens is great because, like you said, Lassie's Civil War reenacting. He's wearing the face wig, like the ridiculous mustache. And, somebody falls off the horse, gets shot, and we find out he's murdered. Well, we think he's murdered.
Is that Lassiter? What died on his face?
Yeah, just great stuff.
So yeah, that was a great way for them to kick off the case. Really, you get it right off the bat. As you mentioned last week, it's not in the police station again, and it's all in real time. Sean is there, Gus is there, Lassie's there, Juliet's there, and there's a large crowd of people. So it's a really good whodunit because this happens seemingly in front of everyone, but everyone's too busy, paying attention to make sure that they get. I can't remember what battle this was. He rattles it off, but it revolves around Colonel
Muscom T. Lassiter,
great grandfather, who helped win the war, and so it's great because what the best part about this is that there's a death, and they don't know it's a death right away, and so there's some great comedy here. Because you've got right before they discover the body, they got the dude with the bayonet.
Yeah, too graphic for the kids. There's gonna be children here.
What did I say about the bayonet gag, right? Because the guy's got the thing going around his head. But then Lassie looks over because he's kind of pissed off, right? Because they people are missing their marks, and Sally wasn't standing by the cannon, and he looks down and he sees Captain Quantrill, and this is our victim. He's laying down on the ground, and he goes. And there's Captain Quantrill, portrayed by the horrible method acting of Nelson Poe.
Who landed way off his mark.
Yeah, and then he walks down, and then, he sees him dead. So for me, this was probably the best start of an episode that we've had so far.
Yeah, because you're right into it, right? You're right into the action. You're right into the story. Sean's there. He doesn't have to he does kind of have to still get the case. He follows them back to the police station where Lassiter is, this is my thing. And that's another great comedy trope. They always throw in the Civil War reenacting in a good comedy every once in a while, just because who the fuck does that? I've never known anyone who actually does it. So it's a nice tropey thing to throw in a comedy that Lassiter especially does it, and it comes up in other episodes. I think it's the first Yang episode where he's like, "Oh, he could be going at me because he knows I'm a Civil War buff."
Yeah, that's right. And
then real quick, what's his name? The dude from Always Sunny, the little guy there.
Yeah.
He's got a woman's name. How could I not remember this guy? He's one of my favorite guys.
Mary Lightly.
He goes, what about that, what was it, that Patrick Swayze Civil War show, North and South? Talk about a Civil War buff.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll tackle that later. But, the Civil War enacting is really good, and Lassie doesn't want any part of Sean on this case because he feels like it happened on his watch. He's going to solve it. Yeah,
it's his thing, but that's classic Lassie and Sean anyways, right? My turf. You stay away, we don't need you. And it just made me think about something real quick when you talked about the Civil War stuff. And we always talk about Gus, just having this obscure knowledge of stuff. When Sean and Gus are sitting on the field watching the reenactment before the murder goes down, Gus rattles off some weird, obscure Civil War fact. And Sean goes, ESPN2, watch it for me. One time, channel 602. Yeah. And but this is one of the better episodes with Sean and his detective skills. Right, because he notices. Full display. Yeah, because he actually discusses some sound and legit forensic evidence with the bullet. He happened to notice the bullet went right through Poe's heart, and Lassie goes, well, how did you know that? And of course, I had the psychic visions thing, but he picked it up. And then this is how they get on the case, is that when they're in the room and Lassie's talking to Vic and he's sort of doing his thing, Sean mentions that, and Vic goes, that was privileged information. Yeah, you're hired, right? So that was a great instance of Sean, not being silly, about getting onto a case. He actually presented, really good factual information that they said, yeah, you got this.
Yeah, we got a couple other key things in that scene. We get the introduction. We already seen her, but we get the Sean meet cute with Sally Reynolds. Like, why are you looking at me? Because this is the age of Lothario Sean, where he's hitting on most of the female characters as they come through the early episodes. And then we've already seen it in a few, and he's already got his thing with Juliet. But then they introduced the board of all of the people that were on the battlefield. Yeah. So that comes into play into the next scene where they go back to the psych office, and I think that's the next scene, right?
Yep. So he pulls out the air hockey table. Yep. And it's got the cool music in the background, and he whips out the and he whips out the dry erase board, and he sets it all up. And this is what I love, this exchange between Gus and Sean, because Gus says, "You committed that to memory," and he goes, "Yeah."
I thought you only said you started for 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 whole minutes. And which is, again, further just harping on Sean's, photographic memory, his ability to see something once and, have it committed to memory. And so this was a great scene. And I just love that little back and forth between those two, because it shows like they've known each other their whole lives. It's not like Sean just sort of magically came about this skill, and Gus obviously knows, but he still gets amazed by what Sean can do. And that just kind of, I don't know, that little exchange, I loved it. And it struck me as like, oh, that's, I've never really thought like Gus ever really sort of being impressed with Sean.
And this is the second time in a row we kind of get that breakdown of the case in the psych office, which is I'm glad it's something they didn't lean on in every episode, because it felt like that was going to become like one of their things. Yeah. But this use is really great. I did notice the music as well. I love that like little so that sets the scene real nice. And then they get into the George Cheslow part, GC. Yeah. Jump all over that. So then we fast forward pretty much right to the dentist office, where we get this through a lot of the episodes where Gus talks about how perfect his teeth are, how he's never had a cavity.
Yeah. And then Cheslow's in there going, well, you got a cavity here. We got to take this away. And he goes, all right. But this was another great scene, because we get introduced to Cheslow, and we get introduced to a first potential suspect and first potential motive. So, up till this point, the only person that doesn't think it was, something sinister with Sean, it just seems like it's a pretty, shut and dry case of, a live round kind of getting mixed in with the guns. But they go see Cheslow, and they meet Cheslow's smoking hot wife. Yeah. And she's a gold digger. She's hitting him up for money, and Sean gets a feeling that maybe something ain't right here. And then he actually gets Cheslow to admit, right, that his wife was having an affair and sleeping with Poe. And we get a great little thing here, because Cheslow he's a bit of a nerd, and he doesn't have his glasses on. He's kind of fumbling around, and Sean picks up the fact that he's blind as a friggin' bat.
Yeah, and he can't wear his glasses on the battlefield because they weren't of the period. So there's no way he's hitting him in the heart, because that's another thing that we get when they're breaking down the case in the office, where Sean says people don't get accidentally shot through the heart. So we know, boom, he's off the list. And then Lassie comes in gangbusters and is like, we found the stack of love letters and you threatening to kill him. So it's pretty good, like, motive. Yeah, but Sean's already figured out like the part where the means, he doesn't have the means to do it.
Right, and we'll come to find out a little bit later on too, is that not only could he not see, but he wasn't in the right position. Yeah, to make that kind of a shot. So this was, again, it harps on. This is a great episode of balance between comedy and really good case solving skills, and so. Classic Sean, he wants to get in. He wants to be in part of the reenactment. And of course, Lassie, won't let him. But he gets a uniform. He gets in there, and he wants Gus.
Oh my God!
With him. And I love this. The look on Gus's face, it's absolutely perfect, because he's like, "Come on, Gus, you gonna do that?" And Gus gives him that look, like, me. You want, And he doesn't come out and say,
And what part of this would I fit into? In these down to the detail Civil War reenactors, who would I play? Because I'll tell you what, there is no way I am. And he's like, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking Glory.
And then Gus' face lights up. I'm thinking
I was
Denzel.
thinking Denzel. No.
Did you say Denzel?
Denzel Washington? Yeah, what other Denzel? Of course. So the other thing that you like, we do kind of get a nickname in here a little bit because the same lady who told him about the cat comes in and goes, Gus, there's a Lieutenant Crunch to see you. Oh. And then Sean pokes his head and he goes, actually, I've been recently promoted to captain.
That's right. That's right. That's one of those things I love about the show because I've watched this a handful of times. Between last show and this one, and there's just little lines you miss, and they're really friggin' funny. Actually, I've been promoted. It's now Captain Crunch, which is classic Sean. So we're starting to get more and more of that Sean character really, develop that we like, that we know and love, and so we get more of an introduction now to Sally Reynolds and Griffin Mahoney, right? Because Griffin is the
he's the guy who made the pocket watch for Henry, and Henry had the ridiculous inscription, but it wound up just being "Don't lose, Henry."
Yeah,
which is a great, but it's a great back and forth because he gives like this, don't lose this watch, Henry Spencer, and the guy's just like, well, I'm pretty sure he's familiar with your name. Like, you can just say, "Love, Dad." Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, mushy," but like that's a nice back and forth. He's still getting him the watch. It's classic Henry. He's gonna do something nice for him, and then kind of take it back, but. We don't get the, that whole thing playing out with the metal detector for a bit, but we get Gus going to get his spectacular uniform, which winds up being the marching band, which is fucking hilarious.
It's the best. It makes me laugh out loud every time I see Gus in that because he's got the big feather hat that sticks up and everything is so, and he kind of feels it, why as ridiculous as that outfit is, Gus kind of struts around a bit. But we get some crucial information here about the episode, about the case, and that Sally Reynolds, she writes insurance. She's an insurance writer, and I love this line. I've been thinking about having my legs insured, $3 to $5 million a haunch.
Yeah, like Mary Hart.
yeah. That just cracks me up. So just the
because its calves are carved marble, and. I've seen Wes flex his calves once, and he's supposed to have the best calves in the DSG. He might have the biggest. I think I might have the most defined, though, so we'll have to have a calf off.
Yeah, don't sleep on me. I got those former hockey player calves.
That's true.
Mostly, I might be short and round. My legs are the only feature that I am like, oh, okay, yeah, it's not bad. That's
bit of a power bottom.
Yeah, major power bottoms. Again, my power comes from my haunches. But this is so up to this point, you still have no idea because even though they have a suspect and they have a motive, we know as the viewers because we're seeing it from Sean's perspective that Cheslow is not the killer. Yeah. And again, I'll say this over and over and over again. This is what this show does really well. You'll get 2/3 away through this episode before it really solves itself, and that's what a good procedural does. And so now they're at the battle camp, and they're what Sean and Gus like to do, sitting by a fire, eating pork and beans, right?
Men reek of valor.
That's right, Enrique Valor. And Lothario Sean, gets a little alone time with Sally Reynolds, and that was a nice little scene. Again, skinny Sean just doesn't do it for me. I need a nice thick Sean.
You need the chubby Sean. You need
the chubby Sean.
Fat equals funny, but he does wind up going to kiss her, but he falls down the hill, and that kind of gives him an inclination to what might have happened because he fell the same way that George Cheslow did, and he looked up into the tree and was like, I think something, like, I can figure out something. I can figure out where the bullet came from because he definitely wasn't shot now on the horse in his mind. He was shot when he landed.
Yeah. Yep. And so that was a great little breakthrough. So he's seeing things from a different perspective. So he's got an idea. So he goes to Henry, but he doesn't go to Henry for the type of help that we typically see, right? He's not, I said, Dad, I need help with this case, because he's stuck. He's not stuck at all. He's got a very clear idea. The problem is Henry won't let anyone borrow his metal detector.
Or any of his tools, really. That's another little bit of a recurring thing.
Yeah.
So he tricks him.
Yeah, he tricks him. He says he lost his watch, a pocket watch that he was just given to him for his, you can't see this if you're listening, a little finger quotes here, for his birthday. And so he's using the metal detector because he's got an idea. Because Sean needs some evidence and he needs to find the bullet casing. So he's using the metal detector to do that. And he doesn't find the bullet casing at first. He finds a brass button. But it just seems like no big deal. Just, okay, a button. They could have fallen off anyone's shirt. But he makes mental note of it, and then there's a little back and forth with Sean Henry, and then he eventually does find a bullet casing. And this is another great Henry-Sean exchange, because Henry gets so mad at Sean for losing the pocket watch. He goes, I literally just gave you a watch that said don't lose, and the first thing you did with it was lose it. And then Sean reveals that it wasn't lost, and he says, well, first of all, today's not my birthday. It was 4 months ago. And then Henry doesn't bat an eye. It says, kid, when you were born, you didn't smile at me for 4 months. That's when the clock started. And that was a nice little back and forth.
Yeah, it's a pretty good Henry episode. You get his character shown really well, that he's, tough love to the toughest, I guess. So it's a nice moment there. And, he freaks out. He's like, yeah, you found the bullet, but you don't have the killer. And that's still the thing. They still don't have the killer. But now he at least knows what's going on. He calls Jules and Lassie to the scene to break it down. They don't really care, though. Like, they're like, oh, they're kind of like Henry. No body, like, not no body, no crime, but, like, you still don't have a person. And even in the police office, when Lassiter was like, okay, it's not George Cheslow, then who is it? And he's like, Engelbert Humperdinck? And then Chief Vic goes, he's actually right this time, which is a nice little slight at Lassie for the, and then even when they leave, they go, this time? So they get called away. They do the whole hot and cold thing to find the yellow pencil that Sean left in there to, draw Lassie to the bullet casing. Like, Sean needed to show off that he was psychic. But then they get called away on another call, which doesn't happen very often at all in the show. Right. But it does show that, like, they're not taking this serious. They think they have the suspect. They were called out of their way. They're out of there in a flash. But that's when Sean really is like, should we leave too? No, let's break down this case. Yeah. And this is where we get the Sean looks up, right? And Gus, and he has this inkling that maybe the shooter came from, somewhere else. And so Sean climbs up the tree, and Gus goes, look for a notch. Look for a notch. And Sean's like, what do you mean? Oh, that's a notch. So this is Gus's real big contribution, and it's a simple thing, but telling Sean to look for the notch when he finds it shows that Nelson Poe wasn't the intended target. The intended target was the notch was facing at the tent, and that's the tent that Sally Reynolds was coming out of. Yeah, she was coming out of. So now you think, okay, Sally was the intended target here, but and why? Was because she was also late coming out of the tent, which is another thing that they buried, and shows you how well thought out the writing is, because she was in there helping somebody with their homeowner's policy, which is why she was alive, because if she came out when she was supposed to, she would have been shot and killed. Yeah, and that's we get that bit of information right at the beginning, because Lassie's all in a huff because Sally missed her marks. She wasn't on her mark, and as you said there, because she was helping someone out. So now they got try and find a way to lure the killer. And so this is my only real gripe with the episode, and it's just a continued theme throughout first season, because Jules just hasn't found her groove yet, as a character. So, Sean and Gus are trying to cook up a scheme they're trying to figure out how they can draw out the killer, and they were going to have Sean dress up as Sally Reynolds, and Jules decides that she's going to do it. Right? It's much more believable if she does it than Sean. And we get this little hesitation from her. She's got the flak jacket on her, she's all ready to go, but she's hesitant she asks the guys to give her a kick. Yeah.
Out of the tent. And that's, so atypical of the character, going forward. So that was my only real gripe with the
My
show.
only gripe was that it seemed like they found that information out during the afternoon, and then it looked like when the thing was playing out was earlier the next morning. So they had like the whole afternoon and night to kind of get that information across. That was my only thing where it was like the timing of that seems a little odd, but the way that it does play out, I absolutely love on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Juliet comes out, she shoots Captain Quantrill because nobody goes after her. So nobody was looking to kill her right then and there. And then we kind of find out because a few things we get, we find somebody left their boots. We found somebody left their jacket, which had the missing button. So that was, what's his name's? Griff's, Mahoney's. So then we also get, we heard Mahoney in there talking about, the brass button soaked in urine, but also he had C4 in there to kind of fudge the fireworks. They hear the C4, but then they realize it's not actually coming from the battlefield. It's coming from somewhere else. And then probably one of my favorite lines in the whole thing. And he was like, Sean goes, they always considered the North, but they never considered the South. And that's the bad side.
Yeah, and so I think this is right where they find the tunnel. So this is where that idea of shortcuts comes in that we get way back in the cold open. They find it's like a manhole cover, and they go in, and it takes them to the other side of the battlefield. And then this is where it all comes together, because this is another killer line. Sean asks, who goes onto the battlefield without their boots? And then Gus just casually says, oh, maybe he had bunions, Sean.
Bunions, Gus. Trying to solve a case here.
And so that's when they piece it together, because that's where the brass button that they found on the field, they see the code, it's basically the button, boom, it clicks. Like you said, the C4, it clicks. They hear the C4 actually go off, and that's when they do their awesome little happy dance, back, I solved it. No, I solved it. And that's when they head on over to Griffin's store, and he's there. The place is blowing up. He's throwing all the stuff in the sack because he's trying to make it look like he was robbed. And then, the Lassie and everyone else accompanies him. And that's when Sean and Gus figure out that, yes, Sally was the intended target, but she was also in on the scam.
Yeah, and that's why Griffin was trying to wipe her out so she wouldn't get cut in half of the policy. So you find out Sally Reynolds with the bedroom eyes and the filthy mouth, or whatever the way he described her as, is actually in on it, but not too in on it because she was about to get whacked herself. So it's a pretty good wrap up of the case. So overall, I think the whole episode, phenomenal. Like it's a very good early episode for a season 1 show that kind of obviously found its footing later on. The only thing I don't like is the flashback at the end. You don't get too many of them.
No, you get every now and then, and we've had that. I think. Well, yeah, we've had a little. We've had a bunch of stuff
of them.
Yeah, but this is the first after one, and it was. I mean, was it necessary? No, they probably could have gotten rid of that and maybe cleaned up some of the timing issues they had that you talked about. On the battlefield at the end. But yeah, I think maybe you could probably count on one hand throughout all 8 seasons.
One shop teacher's hand.
Yeah, right. The flashbacks they do at the end of the episode, but I know the spelling bee is one of your favorites. This is probably one of mine. I'd probably put this top 3 for season 1.
We start to get cooking now soon. Like this one leads to a few other good ones. I think the next one maybe a slower paced one, but we really get going. And this one, like you said, I mean, we can head into Thundercats Ho now and clean up anything we missed, but it was great.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. So yeah, a couple of things I jotted down. Again, another sneaky little line that can easily, if you're not paying attention, just go by the wayside. But Lassie says, "Well, for your edification," and then
I love that.
Is that legal?
Like public edification?
Yeah. Which and then you had in your cold open there. I was sipping ice wine with a baby tree monkey.
Yep.
And just some great things. Henry Collin, you look like an idiot.
Can I wear your face wig? Yeah, everything in this episode is fantastic. Even Lasser pulling off his little mustache. When he confronts him about you're not getting on this case. I forget what he says, but he's like, I wouldn't have gone so formal with it. I would have gone maybe, foreign, you dig my gist, sweet pants, like the way.
Yeah, the best thing too about the ripping the mustache off is that Chief Vic tells him to do so. He goes, the glue. This process takes a lot of time, and she just gives him that look. And he just turns around and rips it off, and the look on everyone's face. So this episode, this was a very, very classic Psych episode. The only issue of it really for me was we still don't get classic Jules. A little bit at the beginning when she meets them. She has
a good one-liner.
And so this is where the debate comes in of whether there's a pineapple in this episode or not, because they're having a picnic and they're just drinking Snapples, and so people claim that they're drinking
pineapple
Snapple. But I mean, come on, I want a goddamn pineapple. Give me that.
I think it takes a while. I don't even know if they knew what they had on their hands, and this is also one of those shows where they could have shot these out of order. Yeah. This feels like an episode that was written a little bit later in the process of the development of season 1, because the characters seem to be a little bit, more defined than they are. And maybe like one of the next few episodes, the jokes are a little stronger and more becoming of like what the show is going to be. Yeah. So I think that happens a lot with these shows that can be kind of shown out of order, but it's definitely a solid episode. Again, Jules is going to pick it up end of the season. Right now, it's just not her thing.
Not her thing. And that's okay, because we know where that character goes. But we do, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, we do get a first in this episode. I think we get our first, that's right.
Do we really?
I think so, because I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it up until this point. But Gus does say, that's right. Or maybe it's Sean that says it. I can't remember which one says it. But I wrote it down. And so you watch it again. You definitely get I think they're in the blueberry when he says it. So that was because they say that all the time. That's one of the classics. That's right. So let's bounce over to the creamsicle here and maybe just talk a little bit more about what was your favorite moment of the show? Is there a favorite line? Is there a favorite scene?
To me, it's definitely when, Sean goes to Gus's office and they do the whole back and forth thing. And they never say the word slave, but it comes across perfectly. And it's hilarious. Gus is very good in it. Sean is very good in it. Even like the, you can be anything you want. You could be a pilot. He's like, Sean, the Air Force wasn't invented until World War I. All right, so you can't be a pilot.
Yeah, that was great. That was probably 1A for me. I shit on Henry a lot. And I've made it known how I feel about Henry as a dad, but he has moments, and especially I think my favorite moment of them is the Santa Barbara Town finale and season opener that we get in season 7, season 8, and then season 8 really gives you more of that. But there was a good lesson to be that starts the episode with the cold open, but I just love the whole pocket watch thing, because Henry is trying, right? He tries so hard to convey some emotion, but he's just so friggin' bad at it. And this idea of giving him a pocket watch, again, this is another thing that just related to me, because my old man gave me his great grandfather's pocket watch on my birthday one year. So that was especially so I connected with that a bit, but it was funny because he's sitting down, he's talking with Griffin. And he's like, he wants it to say what he wants to say, and then he gives him the price, and Henry goes, "Whoa, I thought we settled on $400." He goes, "Yeah, but such and such per letter, and it comes out to so that's when he starts knocking it off, and it eventually just comes down to don't lose,
Henry,
perfect, clean, right?
It's great, and it's also so good because it's a gift to keep him on time.
Yeah.
It's like when you get your wife like a treadmill or like a vacuum. It's like a nice gift, I guess, but it's also like it's because you're always late. It's also like a little bit of an insult,
right?
Which sticks true to Henry's character. And I've actually always wanted a pocket watch. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, so it was the gesture was there, but Henry can never really ever turn it off. Nope. He's always digging just a bit, and he's always trying to teach Sean But sometimes you got to know when to turn the switch off and lay back. But so we get the pocket watch there, and then I love when it comes back into play. When they're on the field, and he dupes him into getting the metal detector, and Henry's just like, you look like an idiot, and the whole, you didn't smile at me for 4 months. That's when the clock started. I was just, it was one of my favorite things.
Yeah, sometimes it's really weird too with Henry because he can be a terrible actor at times,
yeah.
But when he delivers "you look like an idiot," it's a fucking great line
because that feels real and genuine. Like,
because he does look like an idiot.
That might not even have been like a line. It could have been ad lib for all we know, and it was perfect. But yeah, the scene that you love too, Gus is perfect. It's classic Gus because he's just kind of looking at him like,
what would I be, Sean? What would I be? He's so. We said it last week, and I think it holds true. And this is a pretty good acting episode for Sean as well. I thought he acted the crap out of himself in this episode. But Gus and Lassie, I think I don't even think it's questionable, are the two best actors on the show. They had kind of a career before this, and they have always been solid. So Sean, I think, is always good. And gets way better as it goes on, as he gets more comfortable in his role. And I think his role becomes a little bit more natural to who he is as a person. But this, I think, is one of those episodes because he's a little Lothario, Sean, but he's also one-lining and all over everybody at every moment.
And that's what I love, when he's one-lining and not being as silly. We've seen a lot of silly Sean, with the over-the-tops, this and that, and even his psychic vision in this was
very dialed in. Dialed in.
Yeah, and the presidential one. So that was good. So we didn't get that wackiness, that silliness, but we did get just a lot of the quips, a lot of the one-liners, and I loved the focus and the to detail with the detective work. That was great stuff with the bullet forensics and all that. This was an on-point Sean episode, and that's probably part of the reasons why I loved it so much.
Yep. In the very first few episodes, Gus was kind of giving him a lot of the beats that he needed to solve the crime. This one's a lot of Sean. Gus has a little bit here and there, but yeah, I thought overall, strong episode. It's really weird too. I think this is a well-written show, and it's really good. Have you ever seen The OC, by the way?
I watched the OC.
Not to go completely off topic.
Yeah, no. So I think I was in college when the OC came out. So I think me and my roommates, we watched the first season, and then I didn't watch after that.
I mean, I've been watching it now, like for the first time ever, because somebody recommended it to me. It is a fucking well-written show. Like the first 4 episodes I've seen, home run, like from a stylistic writing type of show. And obviously, Psych's a completely different show, but you can see when somebody puts time and effort and details for stuff paying off at the beginning of an episode to the end of an episode. So, I mean, good writing to me is what I look for in TV. And there's a couple things you can pick apart in this episode, but I think, the crime was well written and the way that they flexed Sean's psychic ability throughout was excellent. Yeah,
the nitpicky things are that for this to me. They're just nitpicky. They don't take away from the episode at all. It's not like what was the third episode that we did with the ring? There was a lot to nitpick about that one because there was a lot of convenience and it was rushed, and so that was like, okay, the things that were wrong with that issue kind of did take away from the episode a bit. This one I was like, okay, because you could watch it in a vacuum and completely miss some of that stuff, and it's not going to affect how you watch it. And then those are the kind of things you pick up maybe on a couple of rewatches there. But yeah, this is one of my favorites, and I just love it. So what do we got? What do we got coming up next?
So next week, we will have Who You Gonna Call. So this is the episode with the guy who's kind of multiple personalities. Yep. I've rewatched it a few times because I've kind of let these roll on the rewatches, and I've gotten to this one a few times. It's not my favorite, but it's better than you remember. It's still, I think a bad Psych episode is better than most episodes of television. Yep. But when you're comparing it to the other episodes of Psych, obviously there's ups and downs. But this one is really good, and it has a really good case. And it's a little bit all over the place story-wise, but they tie it in together nicely at the end. So it'll be a fun breakdown next week. Yeah, and then what do we got coming up after? Because how many more episodes do we have left in this season? Was this a 12 or 13 episode season? Oh, I think this is 15. 15, jeepers. Yeah.
So we still got some humdingers that I'm
Oh,
completely.
yeah, we get really cooking soon. I mean,
Yeah.
some of my favorite all-time episodes are coming up. I can pull up the so we just did 9 Lives. This is Weekend Warriors. Then we got Who You Gonna Call?
Yep.
Sean versus the Red Phantom, which in hindsight I don't love, but it's great. There's a lot of good stuff in there for like the history of the show going forward. Forget Me Not, that's got the guy Red Foreman from that 70s show.
Yeah. Oh, and his daughter in that. Cute as a button.
Yeah, she plays a big role in How I Met Your Mother. She's one of the many Ted Mosby girlfriends.
Yep.
And then after that one is when we get From Earth to Starbucks, which is one I've probably seen 70 times. He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. He's Dead. That's a great one. Cloudy with a Chance of Murder is pretty good. Game, Set, Murder, one of my favorites. Poker, I Barely Know Her. And then the season finale of Sherry Scary Bianca's Toast, where we finally get some badass Juliet.
Yeah, we get Undercover Juliet, which is one of my favorite Juliets. So those last 3 are real bangers. So Who You Gonna Call? This is one that admittedly I skip a lot when I'm when
it's
I'm
better than you
rewatching.
think.
I rewatched it last week because I did the whole rollover thing as I was and it's got that guy. I don't know the actor's name, but you know his face. He's one of those guys. You know his face. You've seen him in a million different things. Yeah. Couldn't tell you his name, but you see his face and you recognize it. I hate it when my quarterbacks fight. I hate it when my quarterbacks fight. I'm stuck in the middle between a hunk sandwich, and they're always fighting with each other. I see
what happened?
See the chat. I see Fryer in the chat. Coming at my boy.
Our guy Fry Guy checking in saying Billy stinks. I think it was just a bomb because unless he's been here the whole time, he just came in, dropped a comment, and left. But it's all good fun between me and Fry.
It's all good fun. I know.
I
love it. So, come on, son.
Come on, son.
Come on, son. Where can the people find us, Billy?
They can find us just about everywhere, Joe. We are part of the Dork Shared Gooniverse. We are on Facebook. We are all over Twitter. We don't have our own yet, but we probably will soon. You can find us on all of the social media platforms as well. I know TLDR does a hell of a job of pumping out all of the stuff that we do pretty much on a weekly basis. And, you can follow the Dork Podcast. You can follow Mac and Goo. You can follow PCP. You can follow TLDR. We no longer do Furloughed and Friends. Changed my mind, which that shitty guy Nick Fryer is a part of as well. But he has another hunk in crime himself and our good old friend Wesley Sykes. So you can follow us all there. You can follow me on my social media platforms, all of them at BillyD2411. I'm on Facebook, but who the hell does? Doc, you're all over the place with yours, so why don't you tell the good people where they can find you?
I've streamlined it, baby.
Already?
Already. So I'll just, I need you to cook me up a new graphic, but you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Backcracker. So
Backcracker.
Spell it like a masshole, and you'll be right on the button with it. And so we also TLDR is now on Instagram as well. It's TLDR_pod. So we use that to promote a lot of show art, reviews that Nick and I do for Geeks Worldwide, but we also pump a lot of, I've heard it both ways, clips and audio and all of that. So we're all out here just trying to help each other grow and do the damn thing. So we have a ton of fun. And Happy New Year, everyone. Let's put fucking 2020 behind us. Huh?
Yeah, we're getting close, man. We're in the final 3 hours of this year that has been, in many ways, pretty good for me from like a career standpoint. I know that sounds weird to say, but it has been a horrible year in a lot of other ways. I haven't seen a lot of family or friends. I haven't been in the same room as my parents since March. So it's been a weird year. So, I mean, I know we're just a newer podcast, but I know a lot of the fans of the DSG check us out. So thank you for being with all of the other affiliations that we have. A happy and safe new one to all of you and your loved ones. So it's been a lot of fun for the 6 episodes we've done, and we have 100 plus to go. So and many things in between.
So we're gonna keep rolling, baby. Until next week. Wait for it.
Frank says I.